Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. We are recording live on YouTube, and my guest today is Jennifer Longmore. Jennifer is an author and a business coach, and today we are going to be talking on the subject of understanding your soul's purpose. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. We've asked for the communication angels to be on our side, so let's hope that they keep all of the weird stuff away.
Yeah,
You and I both had internet issues over the last few weeks, so we're not having any of that nonsense today.
No, we're not having that any, so we're decreeing and declaring it.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right. So let me give you a little more information on Jennifer. Jennifer Longmore is a leading authority on soul purpose and elite business coach to enlightened entrepreneurs. She is a sought-after media personality, 3 times best-selling author, and is known for her laser-like clarity on seeing into the depths of your soul. For more than 15 years, she has served clients in permanently shifting their limiting beliefs and patterns that prevent them, from being who they truly are so that they can accelerate their soul's journey. Jennifer, yes, I am excited to talk to you because I've been spending some conscious moments thinking of my soul. So, tell our audience how you became the soul whisperer.
Well, I'd love to. I'm not surprised to hear that. I think during what's going on in the world right now, it's kind of hard not to feel really compelled to make sure that we are using our purpose to the fullest. I even consulted with my astrologer actually, and I said, look, this is we're clearly in the Great Awakening. I want to make sure I use every ounce of my purpose that I came here to deliver. I want to learn whatever I came here to learn. I want to be giving back in whatever way I'm giving back. And but I think even before all of this, most times we're spending our life saying, okay, does my life matter? Why am I here? Does my life have meaning? What is that, right? We end up spending a good chunk of our life trying to figure that out. And some people get really tied up in knots. I was fortunate that I grew up in a family that was actually really open to this kind of stuff. And I wasn't raised in any one religion, which I don't have anything against religion. I just feel grateful that I didn't have anyone deciding for me what my beliefs should look like. And I got to, through trial and error, bump and fall and trip and all of those things, trying to find my own way and find my own beliefs. Whereas most of my clients have had something handed to them and they've said, this is what our family believes, and so therefore you will believe it too, whether you like it or not. And so they've inevitably had to spend a good chunk of time unraveling themselves from that. But I grew up very, I guess you could say, prophetic. Like I always knew things were going to happen before they happened. If the phone rang and someone said something, I was usually telling my parents 10, 15 minutes before that so-and-so called and they said A, B, and C. And then sure enough, that person would call and say those things. So they were accepting. I suppose so. I would call it claircognizance because I would just know that it was going to happen, but I didn't. I couldn't have told you why. I knew. In fact, I didn't even know I was telling people anything they didn't know, and that's actually how I went through school, was freaking people out. I didn't know who to be. I would tell people things, I would freak them out. I had no idea I was telling them things that they didn't already know. And so I spent, and I would say even now, and I'm sure other people listening can relate, where we're trying to figure out, who do I need to be for people to feel comfortable around us? Like if we're empathic and we care about other people, we're always trying to figure out what we've done that could have possibly offended someone, and the rest of it. So I really censored myself a lot because I'm also a truth teller, and I do it with love, but I definitely speak my mind and call out injustices and so on. And so I was kind of doubly offending people without realizing it.
I like that word, truth teller. We always say that we're communicators. That's what I call myself, but truth teller sounds nicer.
It depends. I mean, some people like it when they're ready to hear the truth, they like it, or when you're telling them something they want to hear. It's usually around relationship, I find, where they don't particularly like the truth. I just met someone at a bar. Is this my soulmate? No. Oh, but they want to, argue about it. It's like, okay. Anyways, so with purpose, I knew from a very young age what my purpose would be, but I also needed to feel safe enough and supported enough to live it. I went to university and graduated with forensic social work. So I did forensic investigations for crimes against children for many, many years. And it was great learning for me. I got the equivalent of a PhD in probably like 20 different topics just because I had to be exposed to so much craziness.
Wow.
And I also was very sensitive, and that was a hard job to be in because I knew what was going to happen. I knew who was guilty. Sometimes I couldn't always prove it, things like that. But then it got so toxic that I didn't know I could do a job like mine. I don't have a job. I'm employed, but I didn't even know that this was an option for me.
I
But I knew that I was here to help people. And even though I knew my purpose, I spent my early 20s buying every single book I knew to find on how to live your purpose, because it wasn't that I didn't know what my purpose was, but I thought maybe the magic bullet was going to be inside one of these books, right? That somehow I was going to hear that, oh yes, I could just still sit on my couch and, God would come and present me with all of my clients and I wouldn't have to do anything. I wouldn't have to put one foot before the other. And it turns out that wasn't how it went. And so eventually, like any of us, right? It doesn't matter what we're doing whenever we take that, because, if you're not living your purpose, you can still have a good enough life, right? You can still be at that 75% range because, our vocation isn't everything. And yet it feels a lot better to be living in full alignment with that, but we can have a pretty decent life. But then at some point we have to take the leap and trust the net will catch us. There's never going to be a perfect time to go out and take that leap to be an entrepreneur, for example, or to, move across country to follow our heart or things like that. I mean, there's some times for sure that are not as good as others, but overall, there's never going to be that lightning bolt moment where we say, oh, I should be doing this. So I took the leap and here I am all these years later doing my thing.
Yeah, that's a good story. So, so you were born with a gift, and so the gift of being able to see things before it happened, or clear, you call it clear cognizance. So I'm thinking the soul, when I say the soul, I'm using the traditional definition of it. And that is actually, I was listening to a book the other day, and they said that there's several different labels for the soul. It could be the subconscious, the superconscious, but it is the part of you that is non-physical that never dies.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So when you were, getting your readings, as we would call it for a better word, when you were younger, I mean, did you connect? You mentioned the fact that you didn't, you were not connected to any religion, but every religion talks about the soul because it's non-physical.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not tied to any religion. So how did you connect to your soul, kind of thing? How did you, I should say, what was the bridge between connecting to the soul from what was happening to you as far as being able to know things before they happened?
Mm-hmm. At that age, I wouldn't have been able to tell you how. My maternal grandfather was a psychic medium. He used to solve crimes with the police. And so I think it's, my mom's very intuitive. My dad's dad was very intuitive. I think it's just, I believe we're all intuitive, but I also feel like there's times you can be born into a bloodline where it's maybe more accessible. And my maternal grandfather's dad was also psychic. And so that lineage was very strong. And so he just thought it was great. He was sending me books by, I don't know if you've ever heard of Jane Roberts and the Seth Speak series, but it's really out there. Like, even to read it now, you're going to get cross-eyed just reading that. And he would send me these books at 7 years old and want to talk to me about the nature of the oversoul and stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness.
At 7, so he obviously knew you had the gift. Yeah.
Yeah, I would, I could see things, I could hear things. Claircognizance, I would say, is my strongest. And I think that's why, even to this day, for those of us that have that gift, when we just know what we know, and then you get to a point where you're really solid in your knowing, and people still want to ask you to prove things, it gets a little exhausting, right? Like, I'm not here to do the heavy emotional lifting anymore for people. If what I'm saying doesn't resonate, that's okay.
Right.
But I also grew up, so my paternal grandparents lived across the road from a graveyard, like literally right across the road from the graveyard. It was very cheap land to buy, very cheap. And they built a house on that land. and there was one room in the house. It didn't matter what time of the year it was freezing cold. I mean, you could probably store meat in there have it still be okay. It was that cold.
Wow.
And so the basement was always freezing, and there was tons of rooms and tons of little gadgets. And so we were always seeing people in the basement. All of us would, because they were that strong in there. Wow. And this was just how I grew up. So I didn't know that I was a big weirdo, so to speak, right? Until I went to school and realized, oh, people don't speak this way.
Yeah.
But I think I always, I remember being pretty telekinetic as a kid, and objects would just kind of move in my room, or I would feel like I was sort of stepping into parallel realities and stuff. So I always knew that I had a soul, but would I have used that term? No, it wasn't until probably my late teens, because at some point I viewed this as a curse. And I thought, what's wrong with me? How come I'm so different than other people? If I'm different, that must mean I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And so then being mad at this gift and being mad at the universe for giving it to me still didn't make it go away. So I thought, okay, well, what would happen if I just got curious about it? Okay. I don't have to like it, but what if I just got curious?
Right.
So I started, going to psychic expos, which are, if you've ever been,
no.
those are a trip. Oh my goodness. So much heavy energy, right? Because so many people are desperate to find out their answers, and it's got a certain vibe to it. So that didn't work for me. I would go to healing circles. I tried yoga. I eventually got led to Reiki, and I call Reiki the gateway drug. It kind of opens you to whatever it is you're meant to, to figure out. Yeah. So I say that jokingly.
I had a couple of guests on the show talk about Reiki, so I studied it a little bit, and I understand how it works. So that's great. So I guess it's the energy that connects you to your soul. That's how you opened it as a pathway.
Totally. Okay. Yeah, I feel like intuitively you can know you have a soul, but then when you have something like Reiki, you can feel that you have a soul. You feel the presence of your soul.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And you kind of lose this sense of being only human, right? It's almost like you feel a world beyond your skin. And so in doing that, I was able to finally get the language and follow along with what I'm doing. So I had already been doing this work at a very young age, but I wouldn't have had the words that I had for it when I started doing it, right? And even when I worked in forensics, I had to do it on the side and keep it on the down low, because I didn't want to bring any shame to the agency. And I knew that I could potentially be running into people in both roles, right? So I was referral only in the beginning. And then when I finally took the leap, one of my biggest fears was, oh my goodness, what if my former colleagues find out and they think I'm a big weirdo? And then I thought, well, I actually don't, if I'm honest, I'm not in touch with them now. I don't have their phone numbers. I don't hang out with them. I wasn't hanging out with them when I worked with them. So if they think I'm a big weirdo, that's on them, right? Because that was holding me back from really making
Right.
myself public and
Yeah.
putting up flyers and, all kinds of
Wow.
things. So,
Yeah, listen, I understand that. I understand that a lot of us, we don't ask for gifts, right? So you got this given to you, and you know, like I said, I've been in, I mean, I've had a couple of clairvoyants, which is how I know what the term is, and medical intuitives, and I've listened to some psychic when you were talking about going to psychic expos. I have never gone, but I'm an avid reader and I'm an avid podcast listener. And I think there is one session on Hay House that where the guy was he picked someone in the audience and he got her to communicate with her daughter that died, that kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about? Kind of a sex psychic expo. That's what they do. They communicate with
yeah,
past lives.
yeah, it can be that. And I feel too, when people go to a psychic, and there's nothing wrong with that, that a lot of people will go because they're abdicating power. So they can, we tend to know what's right for us. We tend to know what feels good and what doesn't. But when we don't want to be responsible for the cause and effect of those choices, if we decide to lean into them or decide to lean away from them, we want someone else to tell us how our life is going to turn out, especially if we're feeling really lost. And especially if we are in the dark night of the soul, which we've all been, we've all, and we will have several in our lifetime. But it's in those moments where we tend to want someone else to make it better. And I've been there too. So when I say it, it's not from a place of judgment. It's just from a place of now awareness, where even when we go to those folks, we still only want to hear what's convenient to what we're willing to do at that time, right? If we're not willing to own it.
And and because they're psychic, and not all of them are fakes, but because they're psychic, they also know what to tell you. So a lot of times they just feed into they feed into what you want to hear.
Yeah.
You walk in wanting love, and they're going to talk to you about that kind of thing. So So well, that was a very good introduction into your gifts. So thank you for sharing that. So we want to transition into a topic. So you were a business coach. And how does understanding your purpose help with your clients shifting their limiting beliefs?
That's a great question. I didn't plan on being a business coach. When I first started, I was doing readings. I was teaching other people how to do readings. And because I was so successful, because someone like me is always going to be in business, right? It's not like there's anything wonderful about me. I just happen to have the right clients that were referral agents, and you know what I mean? Like I got pretty booked pretty quickly. And so people started coming to me saying, I want to be a healer like you. Can you teach me how to have a business like yours? And I would say, okay, I guess, but I'm not a business coach. And then I'd have another person and another person. And so eventually I started creating programs from that. I realized, I missed the left brain piece of what I used to have in forensics. And of course, the right brain is taken care of by me, channeling information. So but what I came to realize is that most people, when they discover their purpose is so unique such that the best way to express it is through a business. The business is just the portal. It's just the gateway. It's just the vehicle to be able to share our gifts with the world and be compensated. Now, of course, some people came here to be a nurse, and in a lot of ways, the best way to be a nurse is to, actually go and work at a hospital or a doctor's office or an outpatient facility or whatever. But most times people realize that their need to live their purpose is so strong that the best way and sort of the most palatable way to do it is through a business. And so that's where I realized that it's actually a disservice for me once someone has a relationship with me and they trust me to not also show them some of the different ways that they can express those gifts. So I'm not in the weeds business coach. I'm not going to say, get this autoresponder, do this. let's use these exact words in your autoresponder and, you know, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely like helping people with mindset for sure, because I feel like mindset is a big, big reason why people don't have success. So all the business plans in the world, all of the marketing and the Facebook ads and all the things, if mindset's not there, we have this really sneaky way of sabotaging ourselves. And then of course I like really helping people design programs, price things. I know I can tell right away whether someone's overcharging or undercharging. Usually they're undercharging. I can help them design their offers in such a way that they actually are going to sell quickly. I'm not a big fan of bro marketing. So I'm not a big rah, let's go hustle and be up 16 hours a day. I really want to be in a more feminine energy. So I teach more organic marketing. So I know, you know, I know all the ins and outs of business. I've taught tons and tons of people over the years, all different business models, franchisees, direct marketing, products, services, licensees, you know, all of the different things. And I think I really ultimately like reminding people what their potential is, and then helping them find the easiest path to live their potential and express their potential in the world.
That's beautiful, because really, if we were to tap into the soul is limitless. So that's one of the beautiful things about the soul, and you know, super consciousness and your subconscious is limitless, right? So tapping into their potential is a good thing. But you just talked a minute about mindset, and one of the questions I have here is about money blocks. So let's combine the two. So what you said, yeah, what you said is that you can teach somebody things, or they can have all the strategy in the world, but if their mindset is limited, or they have a belief that maybe money is evil, or, you know, if they got successful, then they wouldn't be good parents, all kinds of things are in their head. So are you able to see that, or do you just coach?
I can see it right away. Right away. As soon as someone's talking to me, actually, I'll get someone to describe their business to me in 30 seconds. I can already tell why they're not where they want to be.
Wow.
I don't know why. It's just, I've talked to so many people, like I'm talking tens of thousands of people at this point. So it starts to become a pattern, and we all have it. So we all have a money story. It's not about judging the money story. It's, our goal is to have a healthy money story. And you can have a healthy money story with $100 in the bank, or you can have an unhealthy money story with $1 billion in the bank. Because I've served people that, you know, I had a client who had $100 million net worth, and she was probably the biggest pain in the bum that I've worked with.
Miser,
I
right?
like her as a person, but she didn't trust everyone. Everyone was out to screw her. Everyone was out to get her money. She had no peace. Right. So that's not financial freedom if you don't have the peace with the money that you've worked so hard to accumulate. And I've even talked with billionaires, and they've said, look, like, I have money pains too. My money pains are just different because I've created a lot of jobs. A lot of people depend on me for their livelihood. So I'm always worried that I'm going to drop the ball and I'm going to implode my business, and then I'm going to be destitute, and, you know, 500 other people are going to be destitute with me. So they just have different, you know. So, and then we also tend to think that, you know, some people believe if you're a healer, you shouldn't have money. It's unspiritual for you. It's just unspiritual. You shouldn't do that. How selfish. You're doing God's work. How dare you? It's like, well,
how dare you make money? Yes.
So can I come and live with you then, if you just want me to work for you? Like, what's happening? But no. So having money doesn't make us any more or less spiritual, and not having money doesn't make us any more or less spiritual. Money is just a magnifier for what's already there. So
I've heard that so many times. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. If we have a really faulty character, that's just going to be, and I think we have some evidence of those kind of folks in the world, right? Of people that have a lot of money, but it also magnifies just how much of a schmuck they might be, you know. And then we have other people that actually, you know, we can see that they're doing good things with that. So, money money, you know, I like to check in on a few things with entrepreneurs. One, like my story is, because this is how I was raised, you have to work hard for the sake of working hard. You have to work hard for your money, and you have to work hard to keep your money, and you have to let everyone know how hard you are working to earn it and to keep it, because you never want anyone to think that, you know, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, or that you know, you're lazy or any of those things. So those are a lot of layers just in that. So there's many times I made things harder for myself than I needed to make them, because that was the story that was so unconscious, right? And a lot of people have that. For other people, you know, they're so, like, I've had clients who have had an alcoholic parent that constantly takes money out of their piggy bank. And then they grow up, they have a business. How do you keep money when you keep waiting for someone to come and take it from you? Those are also folks that tend to not to pay their taxes on time, or pay their taxes at all, and they end up screwing themselves because they feel like the government is being like one of their parents. I had a colleague of mine who didn't pay for 7 years, and you're allowed up to 7 years where I live to not pay your federal taxes before they start to audit you. Well, you got to know that if you haven't paid them 2 years in a row, they're still going to come and audit you. And not only did they come and audit her, but because they needed to audit her, they froze all of her accounts, including her Stripe account and her PayPal account. So she had no money to even access while they investigated her.
And that probably takes months.
Right? It took months and months. She had to broker all kinds of agreements with PayPal to be able to set aside some money so that she could actually pay her rent and different things. And I'm not saying this in a mean-spirited way, right? It's just that she created that, and she knew
from
she was
her money
creating
block.
that. And who was it? From her money blocks. And she was so resistant to look money in the eyes, because when we do taxes, we have to look money in the eyes. This is our biggest issue. And most of us don't want to be in conversation with money. We literally don't want to pull up a screen and see what's in our bank account. We don't want to see what's coming in and what's going out. And when we're not willing to look money in the eyes, if money was a person, it would be like, hi, you're talking to me. Can you look at me in the eyes? Right? Most of us tend to not do that. And so every activity in our business that requires us to look money in the eyes, and pretty much every activity does, right? Whether you're sending an invoice, receiving an invoice, chasing someone for money, paying for a room to rent, hiring a team member, like whatever it is, there's so many conversations around money every single day in our business, that if we don't learn how to look money in the eyes and treat it like a friend and act like it's a dream, part of our dream team that wants to help our dreams come true, then we're gonna be working way harder than we need to work.
I love that one. That's the treat your money like part of your dream team. I just made note of that. That's a beautiful thing. Wow. You know, that monologue, I learned so much, because I heard a financial analyst talking about a money block, but she was talking about a money block based on, you know, when your mother said money don't grow on trees or whatever, but you know, a basic money block, but you just got into detail of some really high level blocks, you know, about you know, not being able to look at money, not being able to have a relationship, look it in the eye. That's really high level. And even about when people, they're billionaires, and they still have money issues because now they have no peace. They think everybody is out to get them. So that is, you know, that is high level money blocks. So that's, you know, great. And I learned, you know, my consciousness was you know, expanded from that conversation. So, would you put money blocks and limiting beliefs in the same bucket, or is it different?
I think the same blocks that we have around money, if we get to the core, right? So money blocks would at the core be around how worthy do I feel I am? How deserving do I feel I am? How do I feel with, you know, out succeeding other people? We tend, especially with our parents, if our parents were working class or they struggled or they had a business and that business failed, we tend to have a really hard time out succeeding the people that are important to us. even mentors, right? There's a lot of people that feel like it's disrespectful to outgrow their mentors when really actually we should be trying to out succeed our mentors.
Yeah.
So it all boils down to the same thing. Like I see our success saboteurs would be being in servitude, right? So shifting from being in servitude to being in service or being of service, right? So servitude is when we kind of become a martyr, where we're over giving to the point where we actually create a massive imbalance in the scales. As women, we're really good at that because we've been taught that everyone else should be the priority over us.
Yeah.
So that can play out, and we, as a result, undercharge or we overgive. So someone pays us for an hour, but we sit with them for 5, that kind of thing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we
Maybe I have a
have
money
we
block.
have really, yeah.
Because
We
I am
also have
coaching, I
struggle
would do
being the
that.
outcast.
What
Yeah,
was that?
I have one of my archetypes is like the shadow archetype, right? Is being the outcast. So I will often join a mastermind, or I'll go to a speaking gig already assuming that I'm going to be the outcast. Well, then how
Wow.
approachable is the outcast, right? Because the
Yeah.
outcast is trying to be friendly, but you give off a vibe that you don't necessarily want people coming too close, and people are going to read that a certain way.
Yeah.
So when I've been in groups where I've unknowingly shown up as the outcast, I can see it right away. And when I show up in groups being aware of that and really working towards not being that, because as the outcast, we're not going to do the things that we need to do. We're not going to go to networking events. We're not going to go book speaking gigs. We're not going to make ourselves overly visible. And the truth is, in a business, we need to be visible. Or else, like, if nobody knows that we exist, then they can't give business to someone that they don't know is on their radar.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's understandable. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the questions that I have here, and is I was listening to a podcast recently, and the founder of Mind Valley, who his name is Vishen, he talks about coaching people on their soul imprint. So is your soul imprint different from your soul's purpose? That was just my curiosity.
Yeah, I would say, our purpose is, what did we come here to learn? What did we come here to master? What did we come here to contribute? Our soul's imprint might be worded something like, what's our soul's essence, right? So some people just carry this frequency of truth, for example. So they can't help it, but if there's shady stuff going on in a room or in a business or something, like I have that. So when I used to have jobs, within the first month, whatever was out of integrity, like I mean really out of integrity, would just come to the surface. I just had this way of like vacuuming it out of the shadows.
Wow.
And I hadn't done anything. It's not like I was, trying to reveal
Wow.
anything. I wouldn't have even known it was there, but I just had this presence. And alternately, when complete strangers will meet me, they'll just feel the need to tell me their secrets, and it kind of just comes out of them, which is
Wow.
actually not very fun when you're on an airplane for like 5 hours and you have nowhere to go and you're in the middle seat and you're just like, oh
wow.
sorry, waving to the flight attendants. But other people have just a natural essence of joy. You can't help but feel different in their presence. And some people have a natural caregiving essence, right? So we all have what I would call like a default button, where in our resting place, when we're not even trying, we just give off a certain vibe. And that vibe is needed on the planet. We can't all be radiating joy, although we all are capable of it. We can't all be radiating it, because we do need caregivers, and we do need advocates, and we do need mavericks, and we do need innovators, and we need all of the different roles that we have on the planet. And we don't know it in our human selves, but obviously on a soul level, we chose that because we knew that that was adding to the puzzle here on planet Earth when we came here.
That's beautiful. I love that. Huh. So your imprint is, what you choose, and what the role that you're here to play. So that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. So a question I have here is, so how can someone instantly shift their perceptions or their blocks and make quantum leaps into a successful life?
Well, similar to the looking money in the eyes thing, the only reason I came across that, and so I'm sharing this so that everyone can try it out if it resonates, is
Okay.
I was writing a letter to my business. There was a point in my business where I loved what I did, but I hated my business. And anyone that's had a
Mm.
business has probably gone through that, right? And it feels weird to say it out loud. And we tend to not tell other people because we'll
Right.
feel ashamed of it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you keep going when you can't imagine but this is all you have, right? Because I didn't have a backup plan. So I started writing a letter to my business, right? I love you, but bleep, 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 like whatever I was saying to it, right? About how it disappointed me and how come I'm not having fun with you anymore. And then I realized, oh, I'm talking to a person. But in writing this, I realized, oh, this is my dad. My dad was always there physically, but he wasn't there emotionally, which is not an uncommon experience for a lot of us
No,
because men,
no.
of
Yeah.
certain generations were taught to not be emotionally
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
So I had this huge epiphany, like, oh my goodness, I am expecting my business to be like my dad. And I had no idea that that subconscious block was being
Yeah.
projected onto the consciousness of my business, because everything has consciousness. And then I thought,
Yeah.
okay, well, my business makes money. So what would happen if I wrote a letter to money? And relatively the same thing revealed itself. And I realized, oh, money's always there for me. I'll ask it. I feel like I have to beg it a little bit to show up for me, but it's still there for
Mm-hmm.
me, but I don't feel connected to it. And I feel like I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
bother it. And then I'm
Wow.
like, oh, there's my dad again, right? Now, my dad isn't always showing up when I write letters to money. Sometimes it's someone that bullied me in my past. Sometimes it's a boss that I really hated. Sometimes it's my mom. It can be whoever it is. But
Mm-hmm.
because our money has a consciousness and our business has a consciousness, it kind of imprints whatever we're unconsciously projecting onto it. So the only way we can create a new relationship with money is to be aware of the relationship we're already having with it that we don't even know. So once we bring awareness to something, then we can heal it. So let's just say I see my mom and I'm like, oh, okay, my mom was really good at making promises and then breaking those promises, right? So if that's the relationship I'm having right now with money, then at least now I know, oh, I'm recreating this without even knowing it. Now I'm going to create a different story. So I literally will write out a new relationship with money. I'll say, dear money, I want to have a lifetime partnership with you. I know you're on my dream team, whatever I'm going to write. So that's something that can be really helpful. And I know it sounds hokey. I really do. And I understand, obviously, that money's not a person. But if we pretend, because if we want to be in a lifetime relationship with money, or we want to be in a lifetime relationship with our business, then how would we speak to them if they were a person, right? And are we showing up in relationship with them in such a way that we can have a sustainable partnership with them? So that is one thing. The other thing I do is I always act in my future.
I'm sorry?
So I always act in my future.
Ah,
So when
okay.
I'm writing in my gratitude journal, I'll say, I'm so grateful for my sold out such and such a program. In real time, I haven't actually launched it, but I'm about to open the doors for it.
Oh, that's
So I'll
so
say, I'm so
beautiful.
grateful. I'm so honored that I get to serve these X amount of amazing souls. I just got off the phone with them. It's so great to talk to them. I'm so excited to support them. So I really go into the energy of it's already happened, but also the energy of gratitude for the fact that it's already happened. And then that speeds it up. So when I don't do that, I notice that, things don't flow as well. So those are kind of two main things that I do for that.
Wow. Well, that's confirmation. I just started doing that about 2 days ago, literally. This
Wow.
this same interview that I was listening to, Vishan, that talked about the soul's purpose. He said that what he does is he does these gratitude affirmations, but they're not really affirmations. What he does is, like he says, why do I have this? Whatever it is that you want, like you just said. So I started doing that. Why do I? Give him an example of what he was talking about. Why do I have 5 million books sold, and why do I have a body of an athlete? Why do I have all this abundance flowing to me that's making all my dreams come true? So I
Wow.
actually started to do that. So similar to what you just said, but just a different spin to it. You're actually kind of, he said it was, you're actually trying to trick your subconscious, which is your soul, into believing that you already have it. So then they will go out and get it for you. So similar to what you just talked about, right? Just a different spin to it, correct? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you like
Cool.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just this week I started doing that. Oh my goodness. So, you know, a lot of times we always need confirmation of things. So you coming on and saying exactly that. Um, so it's you're grateful for it that you already have it. So that's powerful. That's good. Yes. Awesome. Well, you know, technical challenges aside, oh my gosh, you were so deep. It was just wonderful hearing just the tip of the iceberg of what you do, because we're just basically touching on it, but I can see the depth to what you do and what you bring to your clients. So that is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure that, you know, anybody that's listening want what you got. So as we transition to the end, so can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and talk about your soul purpose sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't do soul purpose sessions anymore, but I do offer, that within the business coaching that I do.
Okay.
It's just kind of a natural byproduct. But the best way, so I have a free gift on my website. So if you go to www.souljourneys.ca/soul, there is a checklist in there about the 9 most important questions to ask to get in alignment with your purpose. And then I go much more deeply into the work that I do and how to do the work that I do. So that's available for free on my website. So that's a great way to stay connected. And then I send little intuitive love bombs basically every day as an email of people. When people sign up for that, we get
Wow.
so many thank you letters. I was so hesitant to send out emails daily, but my guides kept telling me to do it. And so I thought, okay, but it took me about 6 months to honor that. And right away, the first week, not that I do it for this reason, it was just interesting confirmation, right? That I got all of these thank you letters, and I still do all the time for sending those out, because I don't like getting emails every day, right? But these are it's like literally a one-liner. And I feel like people like having their inbox showered with something other than buy for me, buy for me, buy for me, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Or someone from some other country asking for $1 million, or all the things we get, weird scams
Yeah.
and
All
stuff.
right. Yes, I have this $1 million
Um,
and I need to give it to somebody. You've gotten those too, right?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I
And I spend a great deal of time on Facebook. So I have a group called the Purpose Posse on Facebook, which is free. So that's for spiritual entrepreneurs that want to just be hanging out with other folks that speak their language, and where we can fly our freak flag basically. And I have guest experts in there. So I have a numerologist, I have a tarot card reader, I have energy kinesiology, anything you can imagine, mediumship. I have different people that contribute every week in there to help us with our business. So it's a
repeat,
pretty,
repeat the Facebook group. You said it pretty
it's
quickly.
called the Purpose Posse. Yeah,
Posse.
the Purpose Posse. The
Okay.
Purpose Posse.
Purpose Posse.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I will. Wow, that is. Yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation. Really, really
Me
enjoyed it.
too.
So, um, so I definitely want to thank you for coming on and helping us understand not only our soul's imprint, our soul's purpose, our money blockages, our relationship to money. You know, we touched in so many different things. So thank you so much for sharing that knowledge. I definitely want to sign up and get your free gift, and also get your emails every day, because, I mean, you're a positive person and you're putting in you're depositing some important information into the world, and I like that word. I like that word. You're depositing into,
Yeah,
into the
I
universe.
like that too. You need to put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, you're depositing. So I love that. So I will definitely be one of your newest fans on that. So want to let you know that my conversation with Jennifer is going to be transcribed and be on my blog, which is blog.myhelps.us. And on the blog, I'll also have links to her Facebook page and to her website for the free gift. When you head over to the blog, you will also see the links to our sponsors for this episode. I want to thank our sponsors for this episode and remind you to support the sponsors the advertisers, I should say, that support the show. We are now recording live on YouTube, even though we've got some challenges still. But if you're listening to this right now on the radio or on the podcast, then head over to the Transform Your Mind podcast YouTube channel, and you can watch my conversation with Jennifer. I also have a Facebook group called Life Coach. If you're interested in getting, some inspiration during the week while, the podcast is on once a week, then head over to my life coaching group as well and sign up. And I have a lot of coaches on there as well, that everybody is trying to give some positive affirmations and inspirations. Now, Jennifer, before we go, this is new, and I didn't tell you about this, but but you probably know what I'm going to ask you right before I ask it to you. So I've just decided to end
peanut butter and jelly. Just kidding.
I decided to end my shows now with asking my guests to leave something behind to the audience that would help them to transform their mind.
I like to live in the question of what else is possible. So even when good things are happening, I say, oh, wow, this is amazing. Thank you. And what else is possible?
Oh, that's
so
beautiful.
that I'm always kind of in that energy of being able to receive rather than just kind of putting a pin in it when it shows up.
Nice. Well, I couldn't have chosen a better person to start this with. That's an amazing response. I love it. Well, listen, I definitely want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank our listeners for being with us until the end and for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind, to Transform Your Life radio show and podcast, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to transform the mindset first before we can transform your mind. And this conversation with Jennifer, all the the nuggets that she left with us and deposited into us, highlights the fact that, yes, you've got to transform your mind before you can go anywhere and be successful with anything in life. So once again, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, namaste.